Hello everyone, this is HTJ Halloween, and today I am going to be reviewing for you guys the Sitting Scare Witch. Now before I get started, I do want to apologize for any annoying background noise that you might be able to hear during this video. There's a neighborhood behind my house where they're working on replacing shingles and it is a bit loud, so I apologize for that. And don't forget, there will be a link to my HTJ Halloween Instagram down in the description. I post some stuff over there that you guys don't see on the channel, and sometimes I post stuff before you see it on the channel. And there will also be my Spirit Halloween affiliate link, where you guys can shop on Spirit Halloween's website like normal at no extra cost, while also helping out the channel. And in fact, I will be providing you guys with a bunch of promo codes. I've decided to just put all the promo codes that I have down in every description, so that you guys can decide which one is going to give you the biggest discount. And believe it or not, the 20% off discount code that's in the description is actually exclusive to HTJ Halloween, so it is just for you guys. You cannot find it anywhere else, and although it is just a 20% off coupon code, so it's not anything super special, it is pretty neat that we have our own code to use for you guys, so I am pretty excited about that. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into this review, but I do want to let you guys know that I've reorganized the categories that I'm going to talk about into an order that I think makes a little bit more sense, and I've also replaced one of the categories with something new that I think is a better topic to discuss. So without further ado, let's talk about the concept. So the reason I want to start talking about concept first from now on is because I'm really just addressing the idea of the animatronic, how well it was carried out, and how unique it is compared to other ones we've seen in the past. Now, of course, Sitting Scare Witch is a reskin of all of the other Sitting Scare props. We've had Sitting Scare Crow, Sitting Scare Clown, and now Sitting Scare Witch. So I am going to have to take some points off of that just because she isn't a unique idea. She has the exact same animation, aside from the light up eyes aspect, that all of the other Sitting Scare props have had. And I feel like that is a bit of a downside when we're not getting something completely unique, because now she's being compared to props that we've already had, and that probably drops her sales a little bit because people might like ones that have already been released in the past, and you don't really want to have all three Sitting Scare props. I'm really looking for some props that have completely unique designs, completely unique ideas, and this one definitely doesn't necessarily bring that to the table. There's ways that they definitely rethemed this very well into becoming a witch, but there's also ways they could have done that even better. I feel like they could have added legs that had maybe those pointed witch shoes that we see. They could have made the bowl into a cauldron, but they just kind of did a basic witch look retheming of the previous Sitting Scare props. So it's not an extremely unique concept. For that reason, I am going to have to give it a 7. So the next category is price, but before I move on, I probably should have said this in the beginning for those of you that are new here who haven't seen any of my reviews in the past. My reviews work with 10 different categories that a prop can earn 0 to 10 points for, and all of those scores out of 10 are then added up to make for a score out of 100 that can then become a nice percentage rating. So that's how my reviews work. So Sitting Scare Witch costs $159.99, so $160 for this prop, and that definitely is one of the more affordable ones that we've seen this year, and she also is going for the same price as of now that all of the other Sitting Scare props are going for. Now, the only reason I'm going to take a little bit off for this category, though, is because I believe that all of these Sitting Scare prices were raised by $10, so it might sort of deceive you that she's going for the exact same thing that Sitting Scare Crow was, but no, I believe that they've actually all been raised just a little bit. Now, I do still believe that she's worth it, so I am going to give her a good score, a 9 out of 10. Now the next category is setup, which I will say that her setup was pretty easy. It's just like all of the other Sitting Scare props. It didn't really give me much trouble, and instructions these days seem like they're improving. They're definitely more clear than they have been in the past. There was some points where I was kind of confused, but most of the time it was actually just my fault for not reading the instructions. So for setup, I am going to give her a 10 out of 10. Now the next category is animation. So right now I do have her batteries taken out while she was in the upright position so that you guys can see her face well, but I will go ahead and put those back in and show you her animation before I discuss it. So that is her animation, obviously the same pop-up head action as the other sitting scare props. If you put your hand in the bowl, it has a motion sensor, but it also has a sound sensor in there, which I don't think that the other sitting scare props have. And obviously the other new feature that she has is the light up eyes, which I definitely think is a huge bonus compared to the other sitting scare props. I personally really like light up eyes and would have been disappointed if they were just painted on there. Some of you guys might disagree with me on that, but I do think that that does make her stand out from the other sitting scare props. So obviously this animation is a really awesome one. I've loved it ever since the introduction of the sitting scare clown. It's just such a versatile, awesome prop to have on Halloween. It holds your candy, it gives you a good jump scare, and I think that this one honestly does it best compared to all of the other ones. So I am going to give her a 10 out of 10. Now the next category is audio, which is sort of included in the animation, but I like to separate it out and really just talk about lights and movement in the animation category, and then discuss how well I think the audio fits it. Now she does have some audio that has been in a techie prop before, but like a really old one from like 2011 or 12 or something like that, that had like a mix of the twitching banshee, broken spine girl scream, and then also this scream towards the end. However, I think that this scream definitely fits her. It sounds like a witch, and then when she's finished off, she kind of gives this little cackle of a witch that sounds even more witch-like. And then she has some audio that sort of continues on for quite some time after her head is already down and her animation is basically over, where it has like dogs howling or growling, and then it also has thunder at the very end. I do kind of like how the audio continues on and just gives it this kind of creepy vibe as people will probably be walking away from it. So overall, I think that the audio really fits this prop. I do like it, and I am going to give it a 10 out of 10. Now this next category is a new one, and it is replacing the disassembly category. And the reason I didn't want to do disassembly is because when I was writing down all the categories and looking at how I used to do it, I realized disassembly is the same thing as setup, but backwards. The only reason that I did do that category was because of props like Peekaboo Penny, where they actually can't disassemble or fit back into the box. But these days, we don't really seem to be having that problem anymore. Everything can fit back in the box. And I also really haven't disassembled any of the props by the time I'm reviewing them. So I just thought it was kind of pointless to talk about disassembly. And instead, I'm going to be talking about size. Because we've seen a lot of props this year where the size has surprised us to either being much larger or much smaller than we expected. And this happens every year. So it's something that I definitely want to talk about so that you guys get an idea of what the actual size is and if it's disappointing or impressive in person. So the Sitting Scare Witch, you know, has a reasonable size as far as like the face and the hands and the torso and all of that goes, as far as comparing it to the other Sitting Scare props. However, the thing that is a letdown about her is that her clothing is not very long. And although you might think that I would include this in the clothing category, I want to address this because I am discussing the size of every single thing about the props. So I'm not, in the clothing category, I'll be talking more about the detail of the clothing, how well it fits her, but in this category, I'm talking about the actual length of the clothing. And you can see this in the description of the product. It says that it's 42.91 inches tall. And even though it says 4.5 feet tall for all of the Sitting Scare props in their product titles, you can see that if you go to Sitting Scare Clown and Sitting Scare Crow, they are both over 50 inches tall. And I definitely can tell this because Sitting Scare Crow and Sitting Scare Clown, their feet are reaching the ground. And that's something that it definitely needs because it makes it look more realistic, like someone that is actually sitting in a chair. The disappointing thing about her is that this cloth is not very long, so it doesn't do a very good job at making it look like there could be legs under there. I think it would have been much better if they actually like had legs with shoes, but I'll get into that in the clothing category. That's not taken into account in this score. But I definitely think that they could have made her clothing longer to make her have a larger size, and this clothing could have came all the way out onto the ground so you could kind of maneuver it to make it look like she probably would have some legs under there. But unfortunately that is not the case, so I am going to have to give her a 6 for size, guys, because really it's not that hard to make a prop have the correct size to make it look realistic, and this one actually fails fails on that. So the next category is detail, which is really important for her because in all of the photos, videos, and even on the box of Sitting Scare Witch, her detail looks kind of disgusting. It looks very terrible, but it doesn't look like anything compared to how it actually looks in person. When you really see it in person, the design is actually very, very good. She has some awesome detail in the face with all of these wrinkles. I really like the elongated pointy nose, the darker green around the eyes. The teeth actually is a bit of a downfall. They kind of are a little bit painted too much black in my opinion, and I don't know, there's just like so many different sizes going on here. It just looks a little bit strange, but it also has that pointed witch chin. Everything about that is good, and also she has a lot of detail in her hands, which I really do like because they're very realistic looking. I like the black nails and all of the wrinkles and details that were incorporated into the hands. The only downfall of her, like I said, is just a little strangeness in the teeth, and also sometimes she looks a bit like a goblin, if you kind of know what I'm saying. She has like pointed ears, you can see those right there, and I don't know, sometimes it just doesn't look as much like a witch as I think it could have. Maybe that's kind of a stupid thing to say, but in reality I think that pretty much overall the detail is good. I think they could have done a little bit better though, just making it look a little bit more like a witch, so I am going to give her a 9 for detail. Now the next category is clothing, where I'm actually going to be talking about how the clothing looks and how much it fits her, not as much the size. However, the size of the clothing is definitely a downfall, but in general the clothing is pretty basic. You know, we have just some black cloth here and just whatever this kind of design is on top of it to give it a little bit more detail, and also we have the hat, which definitely is really nice because when her face comes down, it covers it up very well, and it has that classic witch hat look with the little point kind of bending over to the side. But the only reason that I'm going to take off for this category is not necessarily the length of the clothing, but more that I feel like the clothing could have been much better if they actually had legs, foam continuing down, and then some pointed witch shoes right here. Honestly, I think if they had that detail, even if it cost like 10 or 20 extra dollars, I would have said that this is the best one, like by a long shot. Because just imagine if it had those feet down there, it would look so realistic. But because it doesn't, and it's just, you know, cloth kind of hanging, and this is all it has for shape, it does sort of look kind of unrealistic if you really look down at the legs area. It just wasn't executed very well. And also, I didn't really address the hair in the last category, but I guess I will now. It's just some white witch hair, which I do think fits her well. But as far as the clothing goes, I am going to give her an 8. So the next category is scare factor. I don't think really much has to be said about this. It's a sitting scare prop. It definitely is a great jump scare. I do think that it does it the best out of all of the sitting scare props, and it definitely has a terrifying appearance that's not going to want to make anyone grab some candy. So I for sure think that she is going to get a 10 out of 10 for scare. And the last category is durability, and the reason that I have put it all the way at the end from now on is that I think it makes the most sense because now I've already talked about everything about how good the prop is, and now I'm just addressing how long I think it will actually last you. So it's really how much all of this is worth it, because if it breaks, none of this even matters. Now, for durability, I think that the sitting scare props do seem to be fairly durable. I have had the sitting scare crow for 2 years now, used it in my haunt for 2 years, and it's activated many times, and it still has not broken. It still goes off at the same speed, so I think that Sitting Scare Witch will last you a good amount of time. However, because it is a techie prop, it does have some kind of that cheap plastic mechanism, so I think that it will have a tendency to break, but I am going to give it a pretty decent score of an 8 out of 10. So that concludes all of the categories for our review, and Sitting Scare Witch comes out with a 7 for concept, a 9 for price, a 10 for setup, a 10 for animation, a 10 for audio, a 6 for size, a 9 for detail, an 8 for clothing, a 10 for scare factor, and an 8 for durability, which adds up to an 87 out of 100, or an 87% score. So in my opinion, Sitting Scare Witch is a B+ prop. I think that an 87 is definitely a fair score for her because she's not the best that we've seen this year, but she is one of my favorites. And any prop that I give a B or better is one that I would recommend and think that you guys should consider picking up this year. If you don't have any of the Sitting Scare props, then you need to at least get one because I think they're such a vital thing to have in a display. They make the trick-or-treating part so much more fun. Your house will stand out from the rest in your neighborhood. And if you don't have any of them, I do recommend the Sitting Scare Witch over the other ones. They're all $160, so it's just going to come down to which one is your favorite. But in my opinion, Sitting Scare Witch looks the coolest. She's definitely the scariest, has the scariest face, and she has those light up eyes, which I think is a touch that makes her stand out from the rest. So I will be coming out with an instructional setup video of her pretty soon to finish off all of my Sitting Scare Witch videos. And even though those might not be super entertaining to most of you that have already seen my unboxing and setups, my intention with these instructional setup videos is to actually help guide those of you that are planning on buying these props through the setup process so you can watch a video rather than having to read the instructions. And those videos will obviously be much shorter and clear to the point and actually walk you through each step by step. So once I get that video out, I will be moving on to the next prop that I'm going to be doing videos on, which you might have seen sitting in the background of this video, which is Rocking Horse Dolly. And I cannot wait to release my videos on her. You also have to look forward to the next build video, which actually today I am going to be trying to finish up that build video so that I can get that out to you guys, because I've seen a lot of you guys like, where is the next build video in the comments. I promise they're coming. There's going to be a lot more throughout the entire season. And also my tour, I will hopefully be able to get out soon. I have to look at what stores are open that are large in my area because the store that I work at is very small, doesn't even have the back theme. I want to give you guys an actual full experience tour, so I'm going to have to look at what stores are the biggest around me that are already open, and hopefully I'll be able to get to one and get a tour film before I go on vacation, because I am going to be leaving for like the rest of August on a kind of a late vacation. But don't worry, I'll still be releasing consistent videos, you know, whether I get a tour or not. So anyways, I hope you all have enjoyed. Please let me know your thoughts on Sitting Scare Witch, if you agree with my review or not. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, subscribe if you're new here, and I will see you guys next time.